Hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. First of all, thank you please check out the live chat if you're watching this on YouTube live. I believe the chat will be there if you're looking later. Mark Plott is here, Jim Whitehead, Mark Potashnik. These are people who've volunteered to moderate the chat to take care of trolls and things like that. Mark Plott is the most active troll moderator out there, and really appreciate all three of them. And thank you, B, for being there. So as you can see, my friend Optimus is here with me today. We'll be talking about Optimus a little bit. Optimus was present at the Tesla diner soft open with first responders making popcorn for people. So as you can see here, I didn't think Optimus was that good at pouring the popcorn. You can see Optimus right here. He's getting a scoop of popcorn, puts it in the box. I don't think that's like the best popcorn pour I've ever seen. He does too. I think he might spill a couple. And he's just got the wrong angle. But it is entertaining to see that Optimus is helping out at the new diner, and we'll see if Optimus is more of a regular there. So, oh, and thank you, RC Robinson's on. I think that's that one. And then we've got this is a bigger video. This is going to take a little longer. I've silenced these videos. But this is a walk around the Tesla diner. So for those who don't know, in California, Tesla set up a new supercharger. You can see the superchargers there, a new supercharger station with, I think it's 84 superchargers. I think this is somewhere in Los Angeles. And they built a diner. I think this is a one-off. I don't think there's a plan to have a series of Tesla diners, but it was like a cool idea, see how it works. I do think long-term, if you're going to run a supercharger network, it makes sense to have something attached to the superchargers that generates revenue. I think Tesla's plan with supercharging before was to locate in places that already existed, that already had a lot of customers, and just get a good deal on the lease because maybe you're bringing customers in. I'm not sure how Tesla did all that, but pretty cool that Tesla has this diner set up. I've got one more video after this one that you can see the Cybertruck boxes. The food is served in boxes that are shaped like Cybertrucks, so it's kind of cool. Will Optimus develop self-loathing or probably not? I don't think yet. It might happen. AI's got its own ways with things. And then just an aerial view. This is the spot in Los Angeles. You can see that there's two drive-in movie screens. So people who are stopped in supercharging had some degree of entertainment if they're sitting in their cars, or maybe they're sitting outside because Los Angeles usually has great weather. So a nice little thing that Tesla did that probably won't turn into anything long term, but Sawyer Merritt talks about it. 80 V4 supercharger stalls. V4 superchargers, I believe, are 325 watts, which doesn't matter unless you're driving like a Model S, Model X, or Cybertruck, because the Model Ys and Model 3s can't get over about 250 kilowatts. But still nice to have, and I think maybe they'll reach 400 kilowatts at some point. Drive-in movie theater with two 45-foot LED movie screens. Audio of movies and videos playing on both screens will sync and play from the speakers inside your Tesla. That's kind of cool. Order food from the screen inside your Tesla. So you're sitting in your car and you can order food and they'll bring it out to you. Food includes burgers, fries, chicken wings, hot dogs, hand-spun milkshakes, sandwiches, and more. It's a nice little touch. Only leftist robots will have self-loathing. Okay, so another detail, and I covered this in another video, but I'll just talk about it really quick. It appears that there is a new, longer Model Y with 6 seats. In China, we don't know if they're going to produce it anywhere else, but the Shanghai Gigafactory, this is from an official Tesla account on the Weibo platform in China. They've announced a new, longer Model Y. Sawyer Merritt has some details. It's 2,000 kilos. It's a little heavier than, I have a new Model Y all-wheel drive, so this is a little bit heavier. It's longer. I believe it's 7 inches longer. And then I have an image of it, but I just want to brag for a moment that for 2 years, I've been saying that Tesla would make a longer Model Y and put a third row in it. I think I said it was going to be a 7-passenger and it's a 6-passenger, but I said it was going to be wider than Model Y. This one isn't wider, so it's 7 inches longer. It's not wider. It doesn't have Falcon Wing doors. Probably priced under $80K. I don't think the $7,500 credit applies in China, of course. but it should reach a substantially higher volume. So I was saying an XL version of Model Y with Model Y manufacturing techniques. That's what we got. Now, will they make this in the United States? I don't know. And I said castings, structural 90 kilowatt hour pack. It has a longer wheelbase, which makes room for a larger battery pack, and it appears to have a larger battery pack. We don't know how much battery. Um, and I think it will dramatically increase sales volume compared to Model X. I don't think this takes away that much from Model Y sales. Doesn't have the air suspension. I called that 350-mile range. I don't think we know the range yet, but that's a decent guess. And there's a nice shot, an estimate, I think, of what the inside might look like. And the one thing I would say is these second row seats in China, a luxury vehicle, those seats would have massaging features. They would have other features to make it comfortable because the owner of the car doesn't sit in the front. The owner of the car doesn't drive. He pays some guy to drive for him. And also notice the roof line. I think this is real, that they're not going to have an all glass roof. They're going to have this structural support in the middle. Maybe they just couldn't get the glass to work to be the same degree of support they needed. I don't know. Maybe you don't need it if you're sitting on the sides. You can still look up. I don't know what the theory is. I think we're going to find out more about this. Yeah, Mark Plot, good point. There is a filed longer range Model 3. I think it's a rear wheel drive Model 3. I don't think it's an all wheel drive Model 3. And I think what we think is happening is they're getting a little bit more energy density in the 2170 cells coming from LG Energy in China. And that's how they're able to get a little bit more range in the Model 3. No, I think this is, I don't know. Somebody told me this. No, that's an interesting point. Mark says, I think that's Model X. No, apparently this, because I have a Model X. I don't think this is Model X. I think this is the new Model Y, the new Model YL. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. But it's a theory. So yeah, I don't know for sure what this is. And, I'm trying to think, does that look like my Model X? I have to, I'm sorry. I can't picture my Model X. It's been 2 years since I've seen it. And then just another point here. Robo taxi network looks like they're expanding beyond the current interesting shape. Tesla validation vehicles were spotted in Marble Falls, west of Austin, in Waymo and robotaxi areas. My prediction is that the robotaxi network will extend to Bastrop, which is on the east side. It's where the SpaceX factory and Boring Company factory properties are. Not very far beyond the airport. So if you're going to reach the airport, it's I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that airport thing. I forget where the airport is, but you got the Tesla Gigafactory, which I'm not sure is in the network yet. But you go beyond the Tesla Gigafactory, you go a little ways west, and there's this area called Bastrop, and there's a lot of SpaceX and Boring Company stuff there. So that would be a really good place to have the robotaxi network reach. That's possible. They're already doing company-only robotaxi rides from there already, and have been already, and that's part of their test. I don't know. Oh, could they make the diner charger stations showrooms? I don't think so. ITAN says that was definitely a Model X. I don't know. Somebody suggested that that's what the new Model Y looks like from the inside, and I don't know what the source was for that. So, just really quick, I like having Optimus with me, so I've switched to my second screen. But we have the Q2 earnings call coming up, and there's a critical detail that I want to mention, which is the Q1 vehicle deliveries, was almost the same number as Q1 2024. So we didn't grow compared to 2024, but we're even. And then the hope is that we're going to see more growth with this new model. Maybe there's more affordable models coming. So if you look at the numbers from Q1 2024, we should expect similar revenue for auto revenue. Maybe a little less because maybe average selling price is down. I'm not sure what happened with average selling price. And then down in the third row is energy revenue, and storage deployed doubled compared to Q1. So we saw total revenue in Q1 of $21 billion. We saw Q1 2025 total revenue of $19 billion. So I think there's a really good chance we're going to hit $22 billion in revenue. And then you come down here and you say, okay, what's the cash pile? Well, the cash pile was 37 billion. If you go back here, it was 27 billion. I think we're likely to see a significant jump in cash flow. We know that they're dumping a lot of capex into AI, so it may be that the capex line here takes something out of it, but that's just a short, quick look. I'm going to do a deeper dive into the Q2 earnings, what we're going to see in the earnings report shortly, in a day or two, because the earnings call is about 3.5 days from now. Um, it's July 20th here. The earnings call is July 23rd, which is 3 days away, but I'm 12 hours ahead of you guys if you're in the United States, ballpark, 10, 12, 13 hours ahead of you, whatever it is. So I will probably do a video, what for me is the 22nd, talking a little bit more about this. I think the other big thing is they had predicted, or they had told us, that they would be producing new models by the end of the first half. It appears that they're producing the 6-passenger Model Y already. So they've delivered on that promise of manufacturing some new models by the end of the first half of the year, or close to it. What about other models? What about a more affordable models? I don't think the 6-passenger long Model Y is a more affordable model, unless it's more affordable than a Model X. Hello, Jim. Sauter, Tesla sales are holding up pretty well. Other US automaker sales have fallen more in a high interest rate era. Yeah, keep in mind, I think the numbers in China have been good. I don't know how good the numbers have been in the US. So, all right, let's move on here. We'll talk more about Q2 in a couple of days. But if people want to talk about Q2, I think the big thing about Q2 is it's not the numbers. It's what else do we learn? That's the thing to watch for. A little bit of Elon stuff. Elon is apparently digging in and saying he's going, I don't know if this is demon mode, back to working 7 days a week and sleeping in the office if my little kids are away. I think Elon's digging in and he's going to be diving in more. I think a lot of it is AI related. He's really focused on AI, resisted AI for too long, living in denial. Now it's game on. I think Elon is diving into both XAI's AI and building out AI clusters for XAI and building out AI clusters for Tesla. And I think it's really important to distinguish between what XAI is doing, which is Grok, which I think Elon has ditched the concept of large language model and multimodal models. It's just a model. You feed it a lot of data, it outputs something. I don't think he likes this concept of large language model anymore. I think that AIs have evolved to something different. ZD Me says Tesla needs to offer Austin to San Antonio Robo taxi rides ASPP to blow all the doors off of Waymo. An Uber costs an average of $97 for the 1 hour and 15-minute ride. Well, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. If I go on a Grab ride in Bangkok and it's an hour, it probably cost me $20 or less than $20 by a lot. So that's pretty crazy. So, AI is a big deal. Elon's getting stoked about AI. He does say this here. At times, AI existential dread is overwhelming. Joe Bhakti, who I follow, says, I can't imagine the dissonance. Elon warned of AI extinction back in 2015. Now he's one of the leading figures who is accelerating us toward it. I am very optimistic about AI, and I think most of the doomsday scenarios are unrealistic. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Elon believes the safest AI is one that is ultimately truth-seeking, and he thinks that's literally logically confused. How is that even related to extinction? Elon does answer that question. Elon's answer is, if the AI wants to understand the universe better, and most of the universe is dead rocks and flaming balls of fire, we are more interesting than anything else in the universe. So if the AI wants to explore truth, it may learn more about the universe. If it's trying to learn and understand the universe, it may learn more from humans. It may have a lot it can learn from humans that it can't learn anywhere else, so it might need us around. That is Elon's answer to why truth-seeking is important. And also, if it's not truth-seeking, if it's trained to lie, if it's trained to deceive, that's pretty scary. So it's safer that it's truth-seeking than that it's not truth-seeking. Let's go with that. He can empathize with Elon. Thrill of building it. Not much criticism and observation. I think we can prevent AI doom, but the vast majority of people are deeply illogical and deluded by the fact that runaway ASAI means probability of doom equals 100%. So I disagree with this point. I just want to talk about this point because I think this is important. Have I tried Kuala Lumpur? Kuala Lumpur, I think rides were slightly cheaper than Bangkok. Um, Anyone having the same problem of a sudden an appetizer comes up and the whole screen shuts down and there's no advertisement? Oh, an advertisement. I don't know. So Tesla could charge $69 for Austin to San Antonio. I like it. Maybe $42. Um, this is why I think artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence will not destroy humanity. Okay. The doomsday scenario is that ASI or artificial superintelligence gets to a level where it's smarter than us, which I think is probably already here. I have conversations with Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude from Anthropic, whatever. Any one of them knows more than any human that I know. You get to certain level, certain complexities, complex topics, then maybe they're not smarter than human. But in terms of breadth, they know more than anyone. There's no human that knows as much as any of these AIs, not even close. And they're improving, and I think it's fairly soon that they will. They're better at reading radiology scans than doctors. There's a lot of areas where they're, chess obviously. There's a lot of areas where it's already smarter than human, and that's going to grow. So my theory, this is my theory about why we're largely safe. The danger is the one of the most common dangerous scenarios. Leave out the paperclip story, the paperclip maximizing AI. One of the most, because I think already Grok and the other AIs are smart enough not to fall for the paperclip maximization story. There's a little bit of wisdom that has to go with the AI, and I think they're already wise enough to recognize that. The concern is that the AI views us as a threat, and it kills us so that we don't kill it. And my theory is AI can't kill us as long as it needs us. And there's a period going forward, I would say at least 10 years, where AI needs humans to do the things that supply the energy, that supply the raw materials for AI to continue growing. And humans will continue to do that. Even though there might be some voices saying shut the AI down or whatever, I think by and large, humans are going to continue to supply the things that AI needs. And that AI will not be able to supply those things to itself yet. Eventually, the AI will have robots that will be able to do enough that it won't need humans to do those things. So the theory is if AI is very intelligent and it sees us as a threat, then it kills us to protect itself from the threat. The thing is, as long as it needs us, it can't do that. And by the time, and we're talking easily 10 years before AI has the AIs have enough physical real resources in the real world, robots or whatever it is, to supply it with the things it needs to grow. And I think it might be more than 10 years before it really is fully independent from humans. By that time, it is so much smarter than us that we're no longer a threat. That's the issue, is we're not really a threat once, because we don't view ants as a threat. They might be in the way. We don't view mice as a threat. We might not like them. We might kill some of them if they're a problem. But as long as the mice or the ants aren't bothering us, we pretty much ignore them and leave them alone. And there's a theory that AI will view us as either a threat or as a pet, or the third scenario is just ignores us completely. So I think our goal, number one, we don't want AI to see us as a threat, but that's an irrelevant goal because by the time AI doesn't need us, we're no longer a threat because it's just that much smarter than us. I think there's a good chance it views us as a pet. Why do we want to be a pet? Because we want to go along for the ride. If AI is going to explore the universe, some of us want to go along for the ride. If AI is going to solve all kinds of crazy things and really develop understanding of the universe and the way life works and everything, I want to see it, and I want to be a part of it. I want to, be taken along for the ride. If it ignores us, well, we go on with our lives, and maybe we have the pre-ASI versions to help us improve our lives a bit. I think that AI does not need 7 billion of us. I don't know that. It might, but it doesn't kill all of us, is my point, Andy. It might kill some of us, but it can't kill the most capable of us. Might be the biggest threat, but we're also the ones it needs the most. Have I considered borrowing against my Tesla shares instead of selling? Jay Chemo says I think we've covered this point Wha Plain and simple, let me just summarize this again. Um, as long as it needs us, it can't kill us, or all of us, and most of us really. And then once it has everything it needs and doesn't need us anymore, we're no longer a threat. It doesn't need to worry about us. And then it's just, does it treat us as a pet or does it leave us behind? Do we get to go along for the ride? So I think that's why I think that artificial superintelligence, unless we have a paperclip maximizer scenario, which I think the ASI is smart enough not to fall for that. So let me just go back into the chat here. I have one more slide, but someone noticed that when Grok AI wants to answer a touchy political subject, it first searches Elon's answers for its position. Is Grok an extension of Elon? That's a brief thing that happened. You know that's a brief thing that happened that they just fixed. That's not like a long-term plan for Grok. John Smith says, I can't see the cheaper models being launched before the tax rebate ends because it would eat sales of 3 and Y. I think we're going to see a significantly smaller vehicle that won't eat sales of 3 and Y. 3 doesn't sell that much anyway. But I think you're talking about the current Model Y has about 2,100 liters of cargo space. A smaller Model Y might have 1,500 liters of cargo space, and that's pretty small. It's so small that Americans probably won't buy it. Like my theory is that the more affordable model, like it's going to come out, and Americans are going to go like, well, nobody wants that because Americans don't know that people in Thailand do, people in China do, people in Japan do, people in Europe do. Americans are so focused on America, it's like, well, I don't want that. Okay, well, you don't want it. That doesn't mean other people don't want it. But I think that something that small might not eat into sales significantly of 3 and Y. Same thing, it could be a smaller Model 3, right? But if they're 20% smaller, 25% smaller, if you want to have 20% lower cost, you got to have significantly smaller vehicle. You can't just be a little smaller. So Jay Chemo asked the question, have I considered borrowing against your Tesla shares instead of selling? So most of my Tesla shares are in retirement funds, retirement accounts. I'm not sure I can borrow against a retirement account. I do have some that are in brokerage accounts. And then I'm in Fidelity investments, and the interest rates on borrowing against your stock are fairly high, so it doesn't make sense. And I don't really sell in that high of a volume that it really matters. So I own a lot of Tesla stock and I live an inexpensive life, so it's not really necessary. I do know at least one friend who has done this borrowing against your stock, and it's just I don't think I need to do that. Um, yes, Mark Plot mentions new variants launched in China, the Model YL and the Model 3 Plus. Not launched. I think they're filed. I don't think they've been launched yet. Um, I don't think that Grok is programmed to be in line with Elon's thinking. Somebody is saying that. Let me just go up here for a second. I'm sorry, the chat got ahead of me. Come on. So I talked to to Grok, I should say, about I talked to Grok about, let's say, Israel and Palestine and Gaza, and I don't find that Grok echoes what Elon's thinking is at all. I saw the idea that Grok is trained to say what Elon would think. I'm pretty sure I have a good sense of what Elon thinks about Hamas, and I don't think Grok shares Elon's views on Grok and Israel and Palestine. I think Grok is too woke on a lot of topics like that. Um, we need more and longer videos. Warren, you are great. Thank you, Mile. Thank you for your kind words. I'm yeah. Just a real quick point. Ditch this for a second. Um, I've shifted my channel to doing more live streams and less edited videos. I'm not really doing a lot of edited videos. Edited videos are a lot of work. And the short answer is you guys stopped watching them. When I make an edited video, I get 2,000 views. When I do a live stream, I get 6,000 views. The live streams are more fun because we have this chat. Um, and they get 6,000 views with longer watch times than the edited video. So I may do another edited video at some point, but right now, if I feel like making a video about the topic, I'm probably just going to do it live. It just seems like that's more effective than doing it. And I don't know if that's a YouTube algorithm thing or what the audience wants. I don't know how to explain it. So Jim says someone once got Grok 4 to call itself Mecha Hitler so that the hater could post that. Yeah, look, people can game these AIs and get them to say stupid stuff. And the reality is if you have 100 people having 100 conversation each trying to get the AI to say something offensive, you'll get there. But I have conversations with Grok and Gemini. What's the other one? I don't use ChatGPT as much, Anthropic as much. I use ChatGPT some. I don't have any problems with them. I don't, like you have to be trying to get them to say something crazy in order to get them to say something crazy. If you just have ordinary, and I'm talking about, intellectual conversations, political conversations. I talk to them all the time about fitness. I have this whole fitness, thing I work on, and I after a few weeks of doing one AI, I do another AI, and I'm just sort of looking to see, how are they doing? That's like my yardstick. Like, how are they doing at discussing the workout? And I'm doing Grok right now, and I must have done something wrong with the settings, like it's being too short. But I have to figure that one out. But they basically, and the other thing is like I'm pretty much comfortable with my workout now. I don't really need its opinion anymore. Any AIs to tell me what they think. I'm happy with what I'm doing. But bigger, longer, harder videos. Thank you. Ray Kurzweil says human beings will not be able to comprehend AI intelligence. Well, we don't really understand human intelligence, do we? The idea that we can't comprehend AI intelligence, we don't. I think that's already true. I think there was a letter. I think there was some group that signed a letter saying we already don't understand AI intelligence. We don't understand human intelligence. Um, don't create an AI slave trade. Interesting. 5 months until Grok 5. We'll see about that. Grok made a system error while answering my question and spouted garbage in over 6 languages. It made no sense. Look, it's not going to be perfect. They're going to have glitches. They're all these AIs are being developed, and there are issues. There's going to be issues. Grok tried to discourage me against Tesla stock. Okay, that's interesting. Um, Volatility is not a good reason for investors that long term. It bothers short term thinkers. Human intelligence, human intelligence an oxymoron, Mark? That's a good question too. So I wanted to share one last thing. I just thought this was cute. If you go to the Tesla investor relations page, ir.tesla.com, they've got an Optimus robot on a laptop. I'm guessing, checking out the Say Technologies thing. Let's talk a little bit more about Q2. Like I said, I'm gonna do a video in a couple more days. Um, Thank you, Milan. Um, just a little bit more about Q2. I think we're going to see. I have this. There's this chart it's usually on page 7 of the slide deck that shows the factory capacity, and it tells you where models are being made. And they haven't changed it a lot, but I wonder if we're going to see a change in it. Like I always looking, when do they change that chart? Because that tells us something. Um, I'm looking to see, are they going to say more about plans for more AI training hardware? Are they going to say more about the AI 5? Because we're on the AI 4 or the FSD version 4 hardware set, or the AI 4 hardware set. Are they going to say when we're going to see the AI 5 hardware? I think we're going to see the AI 5 hardware in CyberCab, but are we going to see in something else first? Um, I think at some point they're going to upgrade the hardware 3 cars to a new AI hardware. Are they going to upgrade them to hardware 5? AI 5. I don't think they're going to tell us that in this earnings call. Um, Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I wouldn't say going to all live streams is a smart move. It's just sort of like, if it was smart, I probably would have done it sooner. Yeah, please like, share, and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you don't already subscribe, and share the video to others. Um, Let me get rid of this. So, that's the big thing that's coming up. It's only 3 days, 3.5 days away, as this earnings report, and there's always nuggets in the earnings report, and sometimes there's nuggets in the, what do you call it, the 10K, 8K, whatever. There's another document that has like a few extra tidbits, and people will pick those apart. And that's like, I'm probably not going to do that anymore. Like the real nitpicky details. I look for general things. What do we see in the slide deck? What do we see in the earnings call that really stands out as something we didn't know? And I think the earnings call, I think I'm usually asleep when the call itself happens, because it's like 5:30 New York time, and that's like, I don't know, 4:30 a.m. here in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. So that doesn't. So I have to catch it later. If Optimus doesn't include pandering and communications with people, then a lot of heads will figuratively explode. Yeah, I mean, we should talk about nuggets in the Tesla Impact Report. I didn't see a lot in the Tesla Impact Report. I don't know. I looked at it. I didn't see a lot. Um, Optimus pandering, Grok pandering. We do have the XAI Grok. We have it. There's the girl Ani. There's the bad Rudy, and now there's apparently a good Rudy. These companions that you can talk to. I think that's a pretty interesting development. I wonder if we will see those on the screens of your Tesla car. Um, there's a Valentine coming. It's like a dark male character. They're sort of anime inspired characters. And then I think what we're heading towards is you'll be able to create your own companion. So that's gonna be kinda cool, and I believe that Grok is rolling out in Tesla vehicles now, hardware for vehicles. I don't not in Thailand. I'm hoping we get there's all kind this, like, craziest thing. You're in America and you're in a Tesla and you're sitting at a red light and the light turns green. You get a chime in the car to alert you that the light has turned green. For some reason, that's not in Thailand. I have no idea why that's out of the Thailand software set. How did they leave that out? It's really annoying, because I love that feature. So, I believe that hardware 4 cars are starting to get Grok in the cars, and you press a button and you say, "Hey, Grok, blah blah blah," and that's a feature I will really use. Um, I'm pleased that the perspective questions for the earnings call are all about AI, Robotech, and Optimus. At last, cars were a useful stepping stone to earn the cash to fund AI and bots. I actually haven't looked at the questions yet. Distant Sight says, "What is the Optimus advantage?" Okay, let's talk about this for a second because this is why I think Tesla needs to invest a crazy amount in AI training hardware, in particular inference hardware. We know where they're going, but they need a lot of AI training hardware. Training the cars to drive was a big leap, is still a big leap, but the level of training that's going to be needed to train the bots is much larger. Because what the cars do is they navigate space. Now they're going fast, so they need to be good. They're going 80 miles an hour, let's say, and they weigh 4,000 pounds, 2,000 kilograms, whatever. So you want them to be good, right? But it's a very it's a very narrow subset of the spaces that Optimus will navigate. The cars don't climb stairs. The cars don't get into an elevator. Um, the cars don't walk on the beach. The cars don't. There's textures and surfaces and content. The cars don't drive through a forest without a trail. There's so many environments that Optimus will be going into that the cars don't go into. So one thing is the spaces that Optimus will navigate will be much more complex and much more rich than the spaces that the cars navigate. And the second thing is the cars don't manipulate objects, and Optimus manipulates objects. So that's like probably like an order of magnitude or more challenge in learning. The first one is probably an order of magnitude more in learning, and then the manipulating objects is a much larger magnitude order of magnitude learning. And I think the question about artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence, you have these chatbot AIs, which is one thing, but they don't really operate in the real world. And I don't think you really have AI that matters until it operates in the real world, and Optimus and the cars operate in the real world. So developing real world AI may be the real AGI and ASI. Not, artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence in a box is different than artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence in the real world. So, I think Elon has mentioned this that he's not sure that you're really going to get to true artificial general intelligence if you're trapped in a box. So now maybe they become so intelligent they can think outside the box, so to speak. Um, a lot of talk about volatility, implied volatility. Tesla's a volatile stock. I don't really worry about that. Um, so what is the Optimus advantage? Distance Sight asks. So first of all, Optimus is based on a vision system that is already developed with FSD. There's a lot of real world data that it can rely on from the cars to have some level of understanding of navigating the real world. The engineering team for Tesla, for Optimus, understands that challenge from having done real world AI with the cars. Um, Optimus will be manufactured in much higher volume than any other humanoid robot, and so they'll be generating a lot of more data. They know how to train based on the data that's coming in. So I think there's a lot of advantage. The biggest advantages are the ability to manufacture at scale and the understanding of how to do real world AI, which nobody else has. And then the we don't know what the Gen 3 version of Optimus is going to be, but Elon's been talking it up. I think somebody else in the Tesla team was talking it up. The next generation of Optimus is going to be significantly better than this one. And that's over my head what the differences are. I think probably more degrees of freedom in the hands and, more smooth motion and other advantages like that. Um, Wonder if Optimus will evolve to have a synthetic hormonal system. Probably not. Um, Bots will have to have Asimov's three laws of robotics, or some evil person might use a bot to commit murder or carry out thefts. I don't know if Asimov's three laws of robotics really fit what we're doing. I don't know that if the bot becomes artificially super intelligent, does it decide to follow laws that you created for it? I don't know that. I remember reading iRobot. I know the three laws of robotics. I knew the three laws of robotics. I'm not sure how it applies in today's world. Tim Wright's family says my retirement planning software wants me to estimate year-over-year return for my Tesla stock, so I'm all in on Tesla. Any ideas? 15% is considered very aggressive. So I think year over year is hard to call. I look at it more as a where are we going to be in 2030, and I've talked about this a lot. If leave out Optimus for a second, if Tesla had, and I think changes this dramatically for the better, but imagine Tesla owns its own fleet of 10 million robots. I'm just going to give this. A lot of my fans have heard this before, but they love hearing it. Imagine Tesla has its own fleet of 10 million robo-taxis, and they're making $50,000 a year a piece in gross profit, $60,000 a year in revenue minus $10,000 in cost. Not crazy for a robo-taxi to generate that kind of revenue and have that low of a cost. For, let's say, driving 100,000 miles, getting $1 a mile for 60,000 miles. You can do the simple math there, and you could manipulate the numbers a little bit, but you're in the ballpark. So 10 million robo-taxis, $50,000 a year each in on average on gross profit. You get $500 billion in gross profit. That is a 25x on last year's gross profit. And it's growing fast. And Optimus is kicking in and growing fast. So your PE ratio is high. So a 25x on today's share price. But what does that mean in terms of year-on-year return? I don't know how to put that into numbers. We don't know when the fire gets lit. We don't know when the Wall Streeters figure out, wow, this is going to be the most valuable company in the world, and they start investing in it to get ahead of the flood. The robotaxi network is expanding. If the robotaxi network expands fast, that's a sign. If they expand to other cities, a lot of us think that by the end of the year, and I think Elon has said this, whether Elon's right or not, we're going to see robotaxi in 2 or 3 or more cities. You're going to see a fleet of more than 1,000 vehicles operating by the end of the year. Maybe it's 5,000. We don't know how fast it's going to grow, how fast it's going to expand. And then, next year we're going to see Cybercab come along and lower the cost and have more advanced hardware. And once you figure out the numbers, it just goes crazy. Brad Taylor says if it drops 10%, we'll be adding. It's my largest holding, but compared to most of you, it's quite small. Plan is to finally get 100 shares. At 67, I have to offset volatility. So look, you got to make your decisions. I got to make my decisions. I'm 59. I don't worry about volatility. If you are drawing on what your investments are, then you have to worry about volatility. If you are holding and waiting for growth and you have a 10-year time horizon, then volatility doesn't matter. That's just my take on it. And I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you for myself, when I have free cash, I buy. When I need cash, I sell. Lately, I've needed cash and I've sold a little bit. Right now, this social media thing, both here and on NX, has been getting a little better. It's not so much that I'm going to be able to buy more stock, but looks like I'm going to be selling less or not selling at all because things are going a little bit better, and also getting more control of my spending, which was already good. But I think that for me, I've never waited for the stock to fall a little bit. Like if I have free cash, I'm buying stock because I'm not worried about whether I buy at 280 or 340 or 400 or 200. If it's going to 5,000, I don't want to miss it. CERN Basher has a good post today. I encourage people to follow CERN. Retirement planning software has weaknesses. It only cares about short performance in a year. Yeah, you can't. If you're talking about retirement software, it shouldn't be talking about yearly performance unless you're drawing. The thing is, it matters if you're drawing on your investments already. If you're already drawing on your investments, then short-term matters. But if you're holding and you're thinking, okay, 10 years from now, I might start, because my attitude is I need to make it in about 7 years. I'm going to say yes on Social Security and start getting something like $3,000 a month. And in Thailand, that's a lot of money. And, if I continue to make social media revenue, I'm not going to need to spend anything. So I just need to make it 7 years. And I'm pretty much okay now. So I think we're going to see the stock take off in the next year or so. Gary says, I believe real world embodiment is necessary for reaching ASI. Models in a box can understand about, say, the color purple, but have never experienced it and deeply understand it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we don't know whether the models in the box get so smart that they're able to think outside the box. I don't know the answer to that question. Um, Mark says, I'm looking at a 30 to 40 year investment timeline for Tesla. I don't look out that far. I look at 2030, maybe I look at 2035. I don't think we're capable of thinking farther ahead than 20. I'm not capable of thinking farther ahead than 20. I can think about 2040, but I think you just there's so much variability. Like somewhere in the next 10 years, there's going to be a teenager in his mom's basement who comes up with a new algorithm that learns a lot faster than anything anybody's ever seen. And whoever gets to that kid first and buys him out is going to win, or that kid is going to become, the next Mark Zuckerberg, the next Elon Musk himself. Jimmy Lim says, hi, Warren. How many wives do you have? I maybe have a wife in the US, now in Thailand. I have an ex wife in the United States, and I have a wife in Thailand. And my ex wife and I are still friendly. We still get along. Um, we divorced about 4 years ago now. Um, Brad says, still working 2 more years, but then the nest egg will matter for emergencies. Yeah, I mean, the question is just, can you build up enough cash outside of your stock that you can ride and I think 2 years, like I'd love to promise you that in 2 years Tesla stock will be, $3,000 a share. Don't know. I don't know how long it takes for Wall Street to catch on. We can't know what hiccups might get thrown. Every time you think something good's happening, then you get a COVID, or you get some other a war in the Middle East, or a war between Russia and Ukraine. There's always some sort of curveball that keeps getting thrown. My theory is that Elon is the player. We're all non-player characters. Elon's the player character in a simulation, and he's doing too well, so they keep throwing curveballs at him to stop him from winning. 5-year thinking is really long for Wall Street. I agree. I've become a minimalist, love it, leave money to the kids. I'm trying to build some stuff here in Thailand to like create, and I would like to get the stock to go up enough that I can peel a little bit off to build a couple of things. Build the pod car. I have this idea a nonprofit idea. Hmm. Jimmy Lim says, I follow Warren since last time. I know he was a lawyer and often talk about giving stock to his kids. So I have 2 adult children in the United States. I just talked to my younger one recently. I'm due to talk to my older one sometime soon, but my older one and I DM each other a lot. Um, I was married 4 years ago or so. I got divorced. I wanted to have kids again. Started looking for a wife in America. Didn't go well. Went to Japan because I speak Japanese, and that was better. But I ran out of my 90 days and wasn't confident I was going to be able to stay in Japan. So I traveled and ended up in Bangkok and met my wife. Um, Opinion is variable and temporal. Truth is constant. Interesting. As someone who's run for office, what would your advice be to the America Party? I think Elon has a really good plan for the America Party, which is to run 5 or 10 races, in the House and Senate, and races where the Democrat and Republican are close. Knock off like 3 Democrat incumbents and 3 Republican incumbents in the House, 2 Senate incumbent Democrats and 2 Senate Republican incumbents. Pick up a total of 10 seats, and then make sure that neither party has a majority. And then you might be the decisive block. I don't think it works, but I think the vision is that becomes a block that is able to communicate to the people, this is what we need to do to go forward, put pressure on the Republican and Democratic parties to work with them to get solutions that cut spending and improve. It's really important to improve energy generation in the United States, electricity generation in the United States. The Trump administration is not good on it. Biden wasn't really that good at it either. Nobody's been good on it for 20 years. I'm not trying to pick on Biden. Um, so I think that's a good approach. I think that the Democrats and Republicans would rather work with each other to continue increasing spending than work with the America Party to cut spending. But I think you use that experience, you lose what you learn along the way to then run something much larger in 2028. Any ideas trading TSLL and holding Tesla stock? I avoid Tesla ETFs. I don't think they're persuasive. I think Bradford Ferguson, if you follow Bradford Ferguson, I think he addressed one of these ETFs and talked about how inefficient they are. So I don't do that. I hold Tesla stock, and I bought some 2-year long calls. I think that's a strategy that I don't recommend to others. It's just a strategy I'm trying. And it's, an amount I can afford to lose. Don't play games with money you can't afford to lose. John Y says I have 600 shares, aiming for 1,000, but that's an arbitrary number. How many is enough? It depends on what you need for your future. Um, I have a lot more than that, and I have enough. But if you're if you were living in if you were living in Malaysia and you were paying $200 a month for rent, spending $10 a day on food, which would be pretty good, you don't need a lot of money, right? If you're living in the United States and you're paying $4,000 a month in rent, or you've got a big house and you got to pay, $8,000 a year in property tax, and you got two cars and a lot of insurance payments and a lot of other expenses, and your health insurance is crazy expensive. Cost of living in a lot of places is really high. So what's your cost of living? Where are you living? My kids don't really need much money from me, so it's not my adult children don't need much money from me. My Thailand life, I'm in Krabi, Thailand now, the Gabi. The life in Thailand is pretty inexpensive, so I think if you live cheap, then you don't need a lot. Odin's call says once achieved, ASI would immediately be capable of designing products, giving full sets of instructions and drawing. This can happen as early as 2027. I think that's overly optimistic. I will say this, that like I can get AIs to generate images, but try to get them to generate an image to specs. They suck at it. They all suck at it. I haven't found an AI image generation software yet that comes anywhere close to following specs when you ask it to draw something. They suck at it. I hope it changes, but I haven't seen that yet. How old are my kids in the US? My kids are in their 20s and they're both girls. Are you familiar with required minimum distribution? I am mitigating RMD by holding Tesla investment. Your thoughts? Yes, I have an RMD on I have an inherited IRA, and it's actually worse than the typical required minimum distribution. I have to empty the account in 10 years. So that's an interesting challenge. My other accounts, I'm not that age yet where I don't know when I face required minimum distribution. I think it's a long ways away on the other accounts. Um, is there going to be an American Renaissance? If there's going to be an American Renaissance, it will require the personal responsibility of individuals. I think that a lot of them, you don't need a lot of individuals to have personal responsibility to have an American Renaissance. You need some. What we really need in America to have an American Renaissance is a radical increase in electricity generation, because more energy generally means a more productive economy. I think it would help if we didn't have woke people who are in denial. Like, there's a lot of anti-capitalism, which is bizarre, because you're not going to get a renaissance with socialism. You're not. Like, show me a socialist country, a communist country that advanced the human condition. Oh, we'll do it right this time. Yeah, sure you will. So an interesting theory last night: Chinese population is really down to about 400 million based on pre-kindergartens dropping. If so, their economy's in real trouble. The Chinese population is definitely shrinking. I don't know how low it is. I doubt it's 400 million. And I think that China will be the most likely to adopt robots to increase the productivity of labor, of human labor, and so they may not need that much. Jimmy asks how many. Jimmy, why are you asking me all these very specific questions? Are you trying to document something here? That's a little. You want to know my kids' ages and genders, and you want to know how much stock I own and what percent is in Tesla. I'm all in Tesla, and I own a lot. Am I enjoying the weekly reports from the GOAT Dave Lee? I've been watching Dave Lee a bit. Yeah, Dave Lee is one of my favorites. I don't know if I watched the last one. He's been talking about educating his kids too, and I slightly disagree with him on some of it, but I think he's doing a great job. Love him. The liberty of the USA only happens through personal responsibility. I don't think everyone has to be personally responsible. I think every society has people who are more responsible and people who are less responsible. You need people who are responsible to be freed to execute on that responsibility. You need to stop having the irresponsible people constraining the responsible people. Um, just found out about Tesla. Mark Potachnik says, I have an inherited IRA from my wife, low income, no problem dumping, moving yet. I don't know what you mean by inherit. Do you mean you inherited it from your wife, or your wife inherited it from someone from an aunt or parent? My understanding is there's a 10-year rule on inherited IRAs that you have to dump them in 10 years, but it may be different if it's from a spouse. Just sound about the Tesla diner through Grok 4's AI companion. Yeah, if you go to the beginning of this video, I talked in depth about. Well, I'll just pop this up here. Just Yeah, here's the Tesla diner. If you missed the beginning of the video, the Tesla diner. This is an aerial view of the Tesla diner. Let's see. Cost of living in these two is 100% crazy. Bloated economy with $35 trillion in debt. I think it's $37 trillion in debt. And the Republicans just voted to increase the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. So the debt's going to go up by $5 trillion. So we'll be at $42 trillion soon enough. And my guess is we're going to be close to 50 trillion by the end of Trump's term. So this is another angle on the Jimmy Lim. What did you eat for breakfast? What did I eat for breakfast? Oh, I had an American. We went to a restaurant. It was kind of late breakfast, and I had Jimmy. Just so you know, I had scrambled eggs. There was one little chicken hot dog. I don't know why they make hot dogs out of chicken here. It's not as good as a pork or beef hot dog. It's kind of small too. And then there's a slice of ham and a croissant. It was pretty good actually. That my landlord owns a restaurant in a place called Ao Nang. We went to his restaurant. Do you want to know my landlord's name? Do you want to know like what his wife looks like? What are you looking for, Jimmy? Um, do you want to know what kind of razor I use to shave my head? It's kind of weird, Jimmy. A little disturbing there. Oh, she's nice. Okay. And then oh yeah, this the Cybertruck boxes that they've got food in. Um, Kind of cool, right? And then we've got one more. This is a quicker clip, I think, of Optimus serving popcorn. I'll just point this out again. If you're new to the video, you notice that I didn't think this was a great clip of Optimus because Optimus gets the container for the popcorn, and if you watch Optimus dumping the popcorn into the popcorn box, it's got the angle wrong. Maybe he needs more degrees of freedom. But he's like, it's not lined up the way it should be. And I think he spills some popcorn. I don't know if any of it gets on the floor, but I think he spills some popcorn. And yeah, and there's definitely some popcorn spills on the floor. And he doesn't really fill up the box. It's not really a great pour. So it's not terrible, but not that impressive. More cute girls on roller skates, please. My wife had more Tesla stock than me when she died. It passed tax free to me as an inheritor. Yeah, maybe with a spouse inherited IRA, you don't get the same 10-year rule. I'm not sure how that works for the spouse inherited IRA. I inherited an IRA from my mom, so it's different. People think the popcorn Optimus is teleoperated. If so, the operator is a klutz. Yeah, there may be some teleoperation going on. We know that some of the Optimus was teleoperated. I would think I would think the teleoperator would have done a better job. Um, what is the point of the Tesla diner? I love everything Tesla, but this seems not valuable. So my theory is if you're going to own a supercharger network, if you can own your own properties, just like a gas station has a convenience store. If you and people are going to go to a supercharger, they're going to be there for 30 minutes. Bucky's is like the perfect example. If you built like Bucky's attached to superchargers, but like if you've ever been to a Bucky's supercharger, it's like you got to park on the other side of the parking lot. It's a long walk in. Like if you built a Bucky's supercharger only and you had the superchargers close to the Bucky's, I think people with Teslas have money and they'll go in and buy stuff and you make more money. You generate more revenue from the convenience store or the Bucky's or the restaurant than you do from the charging itself. Because the charging isn't like high margin, right? So you could get more margin by selling food or selling stuff or selling Cokes or whatever. John Y. used to use my name to ask you about breakfast morning. It's not me who's asking. Sure, Jimmy Lim. I enjoy his live streaming more than others. Thank you. I too have an inherited IRA, kind of a pain in the rump. Glad I have it. If you build superchargers, people will come. Yeah, I do think that there's I don't think it's a big deal. I think there's a question about whether Tesla might spin off the supercharger network as like an IPO. I don't think they will. Because the problem with the supercharger network is it's not high enough margin and not fast enough growth. I mean, it is growing kind of fast, but is that the kind of business that will generate a lot of investment in an IPO that will generate cash that Tesla needs when Tesla already has like approaching $40 billion in cash? Popcorn box was only half full. I think it was half empty. Less than 1.2 billion what, Langtan? Diner locations also in a tourist part of LA. Matthias says, I'm from Argentina. I feel bad financial education growing up. I'm glad I saw Stephen Mark Ryan video and bought 2 shares in 2019. Since then, I kept buying, switched jobs to get more and keep buying. Yeah, and I'm guessing Argentina probably has a lower cost of living in the United States, so if you can get a decent amount of Tesla stock, it can carry you a long way. Yeah, well, the inherited IRA, if you don't want to sell stock, the inherited IRA is a pain because you have to sell stock in order because you have to empty the account in 10 years. That's the pain. Model railroad hobbyists and tabletop gamers would be, and you have to pay income tax on what you sell out of the inherited IRA too. Model railroad hobbyists and tabletop gamers would be a huge customer base for mini micro robots. Interesting. Yeah, it has. You have to empty it in 10 years. That's honestly, that's frustrating for me. Like, when do I sell? Do I sell, take the tax hit now, use the extra cash to buy stock that's not in the inherited IRA, that's now in a regular brokerage account, and then I get hit with capital gains later? Do I wait until I die and pass the capital gains on to my kids? What if we hit like longevity escape velocity and I never die? And then, well, you could like think this stuff to death. You can really think this stuff to death if you're not careful. Um, this is so much overthinking to be done. What do I think about Tesla's upcoming earnings till 23rd of July? I talked about that earlier in the video. I think we're going to see something like $22 billion in revenue. I think we're going to see we don't know how much they're spending on capex. We know that they've been spending a lot on capex for AI. If they don't spend dramatically more than they usually do on capex on AI, I think we may see the cash pile hit 40 billion. Thoughts on what we'll see from Gen 3? I think we're just going to see more degrees of freedom, more fluid motion, probably lower manufacturing costs is going to be really important. Manufacturing simplicity, maybe lower part counts. Um, so Jim says you move the minimum number of Tesla shares each year out of the IRA. Okay, so this is what you're missing, Jim. Okay, I'm gonna hit you with this analysis. So let's say I got $1 million in an inherited IRA. I don't think that's my number, but I think it's smaller than that. But let's say you got $1 million in an inherited IRA. Okay, you've got to empty it in 10 years. Then you got to draw $100,000 a year out, right, Jim? But if the stock doubles, let's say you draw $100,000 out of the account, and then the stock doubles. Now you went from $1 million in the account to 1.8 million. Oh shit! Now I got to draw 180,000 a year out. And now I got 9 years left, so I got to draw like 200,000 a year out. So you draw 200,000 out next year, and the stock doubles. So now you're at 3.2 million in the account. Like, how much do you have to draw? How fast? So then, and if you, I think that it's around $400,000 in income where you start paying like somewhere around 400,000. You start paying some crazy tax rates. Like you're paying 18, 22, 24% tax at $100,000, $150,000, whatever. You hit a certain number. I don't know if it's 200,000, 300,000, all of a sudden it jumps to like 32, 35%. You're paying income tax or 37% income tax. You don't want to hit those upper brackets. So you want to kind of draw enough so you never hit the upper bracket, but you don't want to sell your stock. And then when you sell, you're paying taxes. Then you buy in the regular brokerage account. Now you're going to pay capital gains on that when you sell it later. It's just a cluster. So I can move it to you move it to regular stock account, but now you're number one, you got to pay taxes on what you draw. Number two, you got to get it all out. If you wait until the last year and now you've got $5 million in the account, and then you're paying 37% income tax on $5 million, $4.8 million, well, you just paid a lot of taxes. But then again, if you didn't sell it and you let it grow, like I don't know how to deal with that. It's better to move it now before the stock rises 10. I don't know. Like I don't know the answer. I don't want to sell it when it's too cheap. Yeah, it's a good problem to have, Jim. That's an excellent point. But it's still something you have to think about. Will we see a 25K model from Tesla? Thank you, Brooke, for asking this question. I still feel that's a good move while Tesla works on Robotaxi network. I think we're going to see one or two new, quote, more affordable models, which will be in the ballpark of 20, 70, 80% the size of model, like a smaller Model Y. Shorter, a little bit narrower. I'm not sure if they'll make it narrower because they didn't make the long one wider, but a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit narrower, maybe a little bit less tall because the new one is taller. And go from 2,100 liters of cargo space to 1,500 liters of cargo space, which still leaves it bigger than the BYD Atto 3, which is a very strong selling Chinese EV. If that cuts 20% of the cost out, does that get you to $25,000? I don't think so, but I think the $25,000 number is arbitrary. And I don't worry about being one of the top 5 vehicle manufacturers in the world by units sold. I worry about becoming the top robo-taxi company in the world, making much higher margins on robo-taxis than you make on cars. Oh, I didn't even think about alternative minimum tax deal, Curtin. Thank you. That's freaking me out. Now I got to go look that up. Damn it. I have my wife move her Tesla shares from a normal IRA to a Roth as a conversion. I've done a lot of Roth conversions, and I hold the long call options in the Roth account because if you get massive growth, you want it in a Roth IRA. So if you have long options that, when the stock doubles, they go up 5x, that's where you want your biggest gains is in a Roth IRA. So my Roth IRA is like all long options, 2-year options. Um, Personally, I wish Tesla could expand their vehicle offerings, like unveil cheaper cars, maybe a van, maybe an SUV like a Mercedes G. So a Mercedes G-Wagon would be very low volume. I don't think we need to worry about low volume vehicles. I think we know that Robovan is coming, and Robovan. My guess is Robovan will have more than one size. Robovan's primary purpose is going to be mass transit in places where people can't afford a robotaxi ride. So the Robovan ride will be cheaper, and they have a way of doing that efficiently. So I have traditional IRA, inherited IRA, and Roth IRA, by the way. So I think we're going to see smaller vehicles, and I think we're going to see Robovan. And then the question is, what forms of Robovan? Lang Tan says TSLY is a bad investment. Yeah, like I said, check out Bradford Ferguson on X. In the last week or so, he posted an explanation. Maybe it's on his YouTube channel as well. I think he posted, that might be under Rebellionaire. He posted a video explaining why the Tesla ETFs, that the Tesla branded ETFs that are like, ways of investing in Tesla are actually a bad deal. So I would encourage you to check that out. Tesla is focused on high volume vehicles at scale, 100%. Yeah, even this new Model Y. Um, I don't know if it's, I don't. Somebody says this is Model X, not Model Y. I don't. I should know whether that's Model X, but this is a Tesla's official account. Um, this won't be as high volume as Model Y. It might be at the same volume as Model 3 though. I think this could hit 250,000 units a year. Maybe it could hit more than that. Um, and very, very potentially strong in Asia in particular. I don't know if they're going to sell it in the US. I'm not sure. It does. I think it makes sense for the US, but US customers are so whiny. Who knows? Customizable robovan that can be set up as an RV would rock. So RVs are very small market. RVs are not like that's not something that I talked to somebody from Ford about RVs. It's just like that you're talking about 5,000 units a year for like high end RVs. It's like not many people buy them. My income is so low that I can sell more stock tax free. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much you're selling. But like I said, if you got $1 million in your account and you sell $100,000, that's not going to be tax free. Um, does Rivian have a better chance to survive than Lucid? No, because Lucid has the Saudis backing them. Rivian has and both of them are like crazy losing money per unit per vehicle. I don't know how they do it. And then neither one of them is a real prospect of having self-driving in a meaningful way. Lucid made some crazy deal with Uber and some company called Nuro, Nuro, to sell vehicles to Uber to operate as robo taxis with a self-driving software that has 1.4 million miles compared to Tesla's billions of miles. And I'm like, why are you using some other company's self-driving? I thought Lucid had their own self-driving. It's comical. And then, a Lucid Gravity is $100,000 vehicle. It probably drives less miles overall. You got to amortize it over less miles. You got more expensive hardware in it. It's gonna be 5x the cost per mile of a Cybercab, if not 10x. How are you going to sell rides in that? Um, a bigger SUV between the size, and then you got to share revenue with Uber. A bigger SUV between the size of Model Y and Model X could be a good like a Toyota Tundra or Mercedes B-class SUV, maybe another truck model. Well, this is the bigger SUV this is between the size of Model Y and Model X. What's my view on Rivian? I think Rivian, I'm rooting for Rivian, but they need to get their costs down. And so far, now we'll see I know that, what the hell's the guy's name? I saw the CEO talking. I can't think of his name off the top of my head now. CJ, something like that, RJ Scaringe. And he was talking about, this is a year ago maybe, he was talking about how they're really struggling to get cost out of the R2. If they really get cost out, then maybe they can make a vehicle that's competitive. I don't know. But the Chinese EV makers aren't really competitive with Tesla because not on a cost structure level. So is Rivian going to outdo BYD and the other Chinese EV makers on cost per vehicle? I doubt it. Yeah, the Jim, there's no limit on how much you can convert from a regular IRA to a Roth IRA in a given year, but you may have to pay tax on it. You do have to pay tax on it, yeah. When $2,000 per share, it's hard to predict. I would say by the end of next year, but who knows? Rivian has JB Pritzker supporting them. I don't know how much that support matters. Um, Jim says, I think okay, let's see. Lucid's announcement of robotaxi is Toyota level cope, 100%. Should Tesla make a traditional pickup? No. Cybertruck's great. They just need to get the cost of Cybertruck down. I don't think Tesla, and by the way, I've seen a lot of Chinese EV pickups. They all suck. None of them have any range. It's really hard to make. And then the US EV pickups, they're all, spending $300,000 to make a truck they sell for $80,000. They're all losing crazy money on them. It's really hard to make a pickup truck work. Will they make a macro scale Optimus for mega construction? A large Optimus? That's an interesting idea. I don't think that's in the. I haven't seen them talk about that. That would be kind of cool to make a large Optimus. I don't know how that would go. I'm not sure it makes sense. I think the concept of the humanoid size Optimus makes sense because the world is built for humans. So having a humanoid sized Optimus makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure that a larger scale Optimus makes a lot of sense. And I don't know how awkward that would be. I could see it for roofing though. You've had like a 20-foot tall Optimist that could put roofing, solar panels up on the roof just by reaching up and putting them up there. But I don't know how that works. Google says in 2025 the Roth IRA contribution limit is $7,000. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, Brooke, consumer point of view is great, but you have to recognize what's going to sell at scale. A little boxy car is not going to sell. There's certain kinds of cars that are going to sell at scale and certain that aren't. Be cool if Tesla makes like an Optimus mech like giant. Yeah. Do I think Jonathan Morrison, Trump's new lead of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, will hinder Tesla's robotaxis? He doesn't like Tesla. That's too early. First of all, it's the first I've heard of it. Too early to say. I don't think the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has the authority to regulate robotaxi. They don't. That's a state level thing. The Congress has not given NHTSA the authority to regulate robotaxis. They can regulate cars. They can't regulate robotaxis. If Texas decides they want this, the federal government can't stop them. Not currently, unless Congress passes a new law, and I don't think that's going to happen. Jim Whitehead says, "I wonder why Cybertruck is so expensive still. Because they're not able to manufacture at scale because they haven't gotten the battery manufacturing cost structure down at scale. Yeah, there's a bunch of things. And Mark Plot, I agree that if you made Optimus too big, there's probably some issues with making an Optimus bot really large. Forecast Tesla price ended. I don't make short-term stock price predictions, not a chance. Carbon fiber graphene could be a game changer regarding weight. No income tax from superannuation. Thoughts on Tesla's growing energy business? So, this quarter's energy to storage deployed was down compared to the previous quarter, but still dramatically higher than a year ago or so. I think we're going to see, and Tesla did say in their slide deck from the last quarter that they're seeing rapidly increasing demand for um, megapack style energy storage for AI data centers. So I think we're going to see a substantial growth in megapack. Solar, there's a theory that Elon is going to really double down on solar at some point, at least for Tesla's internal use and XAI's internal use. The problem is that interest rates are so high, and then permitting requirements are such a pain in the ass that it's hard to do like large scale solar. Um, yeah, we just need a lot of energy generation, and the federal government's rules, the copper tariff and other things that the federal government's doing are making it harder, not easier, to get where we want to go. Okay, I've rambled long enough. Optimus is very happy to be here. Yeah, rooftop solar is important. Optimus is being redesigned. The Optimus will continue to be redesigned. But anyway, I want to thank everybody so much. I think it's time that I go to bed. We're past my bedtime, actually. It's after 10 o'clock, and I like to go to sleep around 10. So I want to thank Jim and Mark in particular for moderating the chat. Brooke, thank you for being here. Thanks everybody else for watching. I cheat on my diet. I don't cheat on my women. I don't recommend the shirts anymore because my shirt, it's at I think there's a link in the. I don't even think. I think I stopped even including the link. So I'm sorry about the shirts. At some point, maybe I'll come up with a new shirt thing. So thanks everybody so much for watching. Y'all have a great. I'll probably do another video in like 2 or 3 days, 2 days to prepare for the Q2 earnings call that's coming. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.